They did not have a case against him. I listened to every scrap of the trial. I recorded it in my chambers, court chambers. I was a bachelor then.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Darius. Thank you for joining me. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video and share this channel. Appreciate you for doing so. Thank you for taking out your valuable time. We're about to check out a video of one of my favorite people to watch, Judge Joe Brown. And he's going to discuss, among so many other subjects he has talked about, he's going to discuss a subject that actually, a few days ago, a friend of mine had shared with me. It's about a certain person. He's dead and gone now as of a few months ago. But he was involved in, or said to be involved in, a very serious crime in the 1990s, mid-1990s, that had the country kind of in an uproar. It was 50-50 here, 50-50 here, 50-50 there, and all this kind of stuff. And so anyway, a friend of mine told me that this person was actually innocent of this act. And as much as I know, and I don't know everything out there to be known, but as much as I do know, to some degree, this still shocked me. And for the first time, I'm going to watch this video. I want you to join me. Let's watch it together.
I want to ask you about O.J. Simpson. Do you feel like he did it or no?
I know Johnny Cochran well. His number's in my phone. I've known him since 1966. He and I discussed what his strategy was. There is a reality, and his strategy dovetailed into the reality. They did not have a case against him. I listened to every scrap of the trial. I recorded it in my chambers, court chambers. I was a bachelor then, and I would listen to Nancy Grace, who would say, the evidence against O.J. was devastating. There's no way he'll escape the consequences for this. So I said, who is this Nancy Grace? And I'd listen to it. I said, wait a minute, what is she talking about? It doesn't get any better than that. The impound lot guy has just testified that he and his buddies went through the Bronco. There wasn't a drop of blood in it. They went through it with a fine-tooth comb. It was locked in a special enclosure that had 4 padlocks. They didn't have the keys to them. Only the detectives did. They were instructed to tow the car down to the crime lab 11 days later, and now it's full of blood. Where did the blood come from? All right? The DNA evidence against O.J. is devastating. And when I listened to what the expert said, he said, this is not O.J. First off, this is someone similar, but there are approximately 96,000 people in L.A. County that would match this DNA profile, which, by the way, and this is interesting, reflects someone from Northeast Mediterranean ancestry or perhaps from the island of Sicily. We also get something that didn't pick up in the newspapers or television. They had 2 people who were testifying remotely in the federal witness protection program who dated Nicole's sisters. Their testimony was that it was a message to them to keep silent or their girlfriends, Nicole's sisters, would get exterminated. So where were they from? That hypothetical organization that's got contacts with Sicily. Now, it just happens that I know personally the guy that made the gloves.
The CIA has particular skills in developing relationships.
Very interesting, ain't it?
Life is all about relationships.
Uh-oh, sorry about that.
I know personally, in fact, he was my brother, the person that was the expert knife killing that the prosecution called. Now, let's start with the glove.
Now, I want to say this right before we really get into this. We're already into the thick of it, to me. Judge Joe Brown is known for, some of the things he's known for is making claims about Barack Obama and about Kamala Harris, their histories. It's not just black folks that he talks about either, by the way. You have to listen to a number of videos. He talked about President Trump. People said that people said and say that Trump is a racist, and yet he comes to President Trump's defense, not for the sake of his defense. He just tells he happens to know a number of people whom President Trump has helped. So he seems to be quite well rounded. I'm not saying I believe every single thing that Judge Brown has stated or said, the things I've heard. No, but a lot of it I do. And on top of it, if he's lying, how come he has not been sued by Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, or has not been sued or even approached by Kamala Harris? He said some very, what you might call, damning things against them. And according to my knowledge, at the date, today is December 7th, the day after my birthday, December 7th, 2024. And I know of no lawsuits or claims against Judge Joe Brown. So he must know his stuff, and they must know he knows his stuff. So this is very interesting information. Like I said, I'm listening to this video for the very first time. So thank you for joining me.
This person told me out his own mouth, and so did Johnny Cochran, they took a tracing of everybody's hand. OJ is a big dude. I knew him personally from college. And
now, I know some people will say, okay, well, he's coming to O.J. Simpson's defense because they were buddies. Judge Joe Brown, from what I have seen, from what I have followed concerning him, I'm not saying I know him personally, but I'm just saying he doesn't seem like the type of person to play games like that. There's just some people you can kind of tell. They're not perfect, but you can tell they move in a different way.
He wore a size, not XL, but 2XL. The glove was a size L, so they knew it wasn't going to fit. But guess who wore a size L? Furman. Guess who found the glove? Furman. Under a half foot of dead leaves, 75 feet into OJ's dark backyard, supposedly. All right? Now, my brother, who did not testify in front of the jury, when he was asked to assess the knife killing, he said, first off, OJ is a right-handed guy. Whoever did this killing is a left-handed person. Said each of the victims, Nicole and Goldman, were struck by a fatal blow with a knife turned sideways that slid in next to the central cartilage in the rib cage that tore up the aorta and upper two chambers of the heart. Then their throats were slit ear to ear, and somebody used some pliers to pull their tongues out through the slit throat. That's called a Colombian necktie. And meanwhile, in the blood, when they took him out on the scene, since he dealt with this kind of forensics, he says there's somebody that has a size 9 shoe and somebody that wore a size 10.5 shoe that's leaving tracks. OJ wears a size 12. And the blood that they supposedly say they found because somebody got a slight wound on something like a finger, that's the sample that has 96,000 other people in LA County that could have donated it. And it definitely wasn't OJ, but Nancy Grace said it was. Now, the problem was also this, planting evidence. The jury saw this, and Cochran brilliantly used it in final argument, a split screen. There had been so many instances where people were accusing LAPD of coming in and stealing from upscale homes that they had a security squad that would be sent in to video a scene before the crime scene detectives started their work so you could see what was in there. Well, 1:14 on the clock in the video, you can see them video the foot of the bed. There are no bloody socks. There are no socks in there at all. It's well lit. About 5 minutes later, you can hear this, "Sir, who are you?" And you can hear somebody who is identifying himself as Detective Furman, and they tell him he has to leave immediately. The jury saw this. Cochran is arguing from this at final argument. A few minutes later, sir, didn't we tell you you had to leave? Detective Furman, isn't it? Yes, sir. You got to go out of here right now. And they panned the camera around. And where is Furman? You can see through 2 doors into the bedroom. Furman is standing right there at the foot of the bed. 35 minutes later, when crime scene's in there, right where you saw it, 114, no socks at all, completely clear, right where you later saw Furman, you see now bloody socks. Now, what's the inference? Furman planted the bloody socks. You find that Furman has testified he found the size X glove that fits him, that does not fit OJ, but his story is he finds it under a half foot of leaves deep inside OJ's backyard after he climbs the fence. Furman lives 28 miles away. He's off duty, but for some reason, he comes to the scene 5 minutes after the murder occurs.
Wow.
He also was subject to testimony that he had been over to visit Nicole at least 11 times, and he was trying to talk to her, date her. There was also evidence that the jury here heard that, by the way, Nancy Grace said nothing about, where OJ caught her giving a head job to somebody on the couch, having sex with somebody on the couch, and the witnesses all say he was mad, but in the lines of, don't you know that the kids could come down and catch you? Why don't you deal with somebody who's not so broke they don't have an apartment or a hotel or a motel? If you need it, goddammit, I'll give you the money. Just don't spend it on drugs.
Stacked in boxes filled with moments once cherished. Where do these older home movies belong today?
If OJ did what they said, he had just returned from a recital with his 2 daughters, he would have had to been prepared. Baby, girl, if you hear mama screaming, it's just daddy killing her. Go tell your baby sister not to panic. I won't hurt anybody. That is not the way it went down. All that stuff in there was garbage. The jury stayed out less than half an hour from people that I talked to who were present. Later, after I had the show, after I got a chance to look through all of the evidence, because some judge that I had recruited to UCLA happened to be granting me access to look at the pictures and look at the physical evidence. They had absolutely nothing on him but what Nancy Grace put out, and that sleazy woman who has got a history of that kind of behavior convinced the American public that OJ was guilty, and they didn't have one shred, one scintilla of evidence. Now, Johnny Cochran told me, he said, Joe, what I did was this. I just got people over 45 years old, 40 years old, who grew up in Los Angeles, who understood that LAPD would lie. So they weren't freaked out by the proposition. And they...
Man, this is incredible. I can tell you this much, is I did think that OJ, after everything and years later, I thought he was guilty. I really did. I just figured he got off somehow, maybe on his celebrity or what. He got off. But this is incredible. And Judge O'Brien is also known for being having a very good memory and being very detailed in anything he talks about. So I didn't even know this video here existed. I didn't know this story existed. So this, for me, corroborates my trusted friend, because my friend is very trustworthy for me, to me. He has not lied to me. He is telling me this a few days ago, and then I'm coming across this video. I don't believe in accidents or coincidences. And let's keep this part in mind, and we'll get back to the video. I know people don't like to believe, or I believe that people don't like to believe that law enforcement at any level is corrupt, or there's some level of corruption. One of the things I've learned in life is this, and this is a rule I live by. I learned this from my father. People are people. So in my mind, there's a 50-50% chance people are right, and there's a 50-50% chance people are wrong.
Just found LAPD was telling a big lie. That's basically what it was. They planted the evidence. Now, you want to get the kicker? There's what they call the Rampart scandal. The 4 chief detectives in the OJ case went to jail for planting evidence that resulted in 128 men being released from the California penitentiary because these low-down bastards planted it. These are the same 4 chief detectives involved in the OJ case. Also caught on tape was one of these lab technicians bringing OJ's 10 cc sample of blood back to the scene. What did you do with it? Well, I don't know. Did you bring it back to the lab? I think I lost it on the scene. The testimony they got from somebody that was an expert in that was that the blood sample you got, they tried to plant 10 cc's of OJ's blood, but it had decayed, so they didn't get anything out of it. But fortuitously, somebody else there that did do a little bleeding, which couldn't have been OJ because he had no wounds, and they brought in an airline co-pilot to testify that he got OJ's autograph in the flight log, and he had no wounds, and the guy sitting next to him played blackjack with him all the way to Chicago, said he didn't have any cuts on his hands. So they tried to plant the evidence. And that's exactly what they did. Like Johnny Cochran said, it was a rush to judgment. And actually, most of the defense lawyers I know and several of the criminal judges I know at the time who looked at this said they had probable cause to indict Furman, but they didn't. And who was it that cut their throats ear to ear and pulled the tongue out? And who was it that just hit the same death blow to each of them from the perspective of somebody being a left-handed person, taking out the aorta and 2 upper chambers of the heart? That was a pro. Now, here's one thing from the many homicide trials I'd either represented somebody with or presided over. Amateurs expect when they stab somebody, it'll be like in the movies, and they fall over. Absolutely nothing happens. They stab them. This dude ain't done nothing, man. This Superman, hell. Boom, let me stab him again. Hell, nothing happened. Boom, let me stab him again. And you get 15, 20, 25 stab wounds until they add up so the person starts hemorrhaging enough so the blood pressure is more quickly dropping. A pro knows I just killed him. He might not act like it for a little while, but he's dead. And it was a pro that did it, and there were at least 2 people on the scene who were responsible for it. And there you go. That would exclude OJ. So actually, from some of the courtroom personnel and a couple of judges who peeped in on the trial, they said they didn't have anything on OJ. And they agreed with me. It was Nancy Grace that just lied and said there was something on OJ because she was trying to make her way. This was her first assignment, and she wanted to ensure her career in television. I busted her a couple of times, once on Larry King Live when she claimed she had figured out what happened in this murder where somebody got killed on campus. And what turned out is just what I accused her of. You went and paid somebody a bribe, and one of the detectives briefed you on what they're going to hit the guy with tomorrow because they got some other evidence. You didn't deduce that. And see, that's lack of being scrupulous. Yeah. So you got cops that went to jail for planting evidence. They were the chief detectives. You could see at least one detective plant the evidence on video. You heard all this testimony if you actually were present during the trial. That's not OJ. That could be 96,000 other people in LA County. It ain't him. It's somebody from Northeast Mediterranean or Sicily. Then you hear 2 mobsters talk about You know, we took it as a message that if we opened our mouths, our loved ones were going to get killed. It was a message to us. Everybody thought she was a junkie that owed everybody in West Hollywood a lot of money.
Wow.
Where are you going with this? Nancy Grace said O.J. killed Nicole and Rod Goldman. The civil case where he was found liable, his civil defense team was nowhere near as good as his criminal defense team. And the standard of proof was not beyond a reasonable doubt. It was by so-called preponderance of the evidence, and he did not have as favorable a jury venue as Johnny Cochran managed. Plus, I met him. He wasn't that kind of guy. I knew him from college. He used to hang around with somebody I knew, and everybody used to play cards. He and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and OJ and some of the athletes and some of the professors, black, they'd all meet up, be out in Santa Monica right on the beach. Somebody had a big 5-bedroom sprawling house. We used to hang out there. He's not that kind of guy.
Man, I mean, how do you follow that? I mean, that's a lot of information to digest. For those of you who grew up, like me, around that era, around that time when that was the main headline, and you saw OJ driving or having his driver, I forget which one it was, driving on the highway. And we was watching this white, I think it was a white Ford Bronco, if I'm correct, a white Bronco for sure. And the helicopters was following and watching. The police was chasing him and stuff. And so, man, this is interesting information. But again, I mean, this is, I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you still, after watching this video, do you still believe that OJ murdered his I think she's his ex-wife, and his ex-wife and her boyfriend? Or is this food for thought? Give you something more to think about. I know this is not something I'm gonna totally focus on, but I just thought it was very interesting based on what I grew up and what I learned then. And of course, what I know about the media, what I know about powerful players and how they're willing to manipulate the hearts and minds of the people. I'd have no doubt that what Judge Joe Brown just said is true. See you on the next one. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share this video, share this channel. And also remember that Jesus loves you, and so do I.